under the shade today because of the work that we're doing, the Agricultural Worker Program Act. We want to make sure to remind people of what it takes to do this work and the wonderful people who do the work. Right now, in the summer, watermelon is one of the most popular fruits. And over 80% of the watermelons in the United States are produced right here in the United States. Some 50 members of the House of Representatives and introduced in the United States Senate, introduced by Senators Dianne Feinstein and co-sponsored by 10 senators, will honor the women and men who do this work, who literally make sure that every American eats. For the people who literally feed us every day, the least we can do as Americans is invite these new Americans to be part of our community, not just the people who feed us. Our nation has a terrible racist legacy when it comes to agriculture in the United States. And the Agricultural Worker Program Act will integrate the farm workers who feed us every day. We have a great lineup of speakers today. For the members of Congress that don't want to sign the Agricultural Worker Program Act, we invite them to come out and pick watermelons. Congresswoman Chu, in 100-degree heat, helped pass the first law in the United States that guaranteed the simple act of water and shade for farm workers. Our other 49 states don't have that. Congresswoman Loughran was the only member of Congress who, when we offered to every one of them to come out to work for a day in the field, who actually took up the offer. And Congressman Luis Gutiérrez has traveled the entire country fighting for immigration. Congressman Costa, Carvajal, and Pineda represent some of the largest agricultural districts in the United States. They're all going to speak to you about why this is so important. Y después yo voy a hablar en español para los que quieren hacerlo en español. So without further ado, I want to introduce Congressman Luis Gutiérrez, our great champion.
I want to thank the United Farm Workers for all that you do and for being our partner on the Agricultural Worker Program Act. I've had the honor of meeting with members of the UFW on many, many occasions over the last 2 decades. They've always rejuvenated my soul with their dedication to making life better for other farm workers and for strengthening the agricultural industry in this country. They literally make eating food possible. And we should appreciate that every single day. Today, reporters asked me why we are having a press conference outside in Washington, D.C. and such a hot lake. And let me tell you, being inside on a day like this is an option that we have that farm workers do not have. They do not have the option of shade, of air conditioning, of working in comfortable conditions. They are out in the heat every day from sunup to sundown, and we only have to be here for about half an hour, so relax, we're going to get through it. To each of you were to have to bend over and get on your knees for a few hours using a sharp tool, or working with chemicals and heavy equipment, or cows that do not want to move when you want them to go, then you would just get a small taste of what farm workers experience every day. And they do it for not much money, and they do it without much job security, and in dangerous and remote areas sometimes. The risks of exploitation and the risk of sexual assault for women is extraordinarily high, much higher than one might expect. And they do it knowing that they and their families are at risk of arrest and deportation because we do not have a legal immigration system that provides legal avenues to come to this country to work on this very vital industry. We know that foreign hands will touch our food, and the question for America is whether we want those foreign hands to grow our food in this country or in a foreign country. The choice for America is whether we want our food grown and produced under our laws for food safety and workplace safety, or in someone else's country. And we could choose to have a legal immigration and functioning visa program so that our working men and women are protected by our labor laws, and employers are in full compliance and accountable. But we have chosen as a nation just not to do that. The Republican proposal that will be discussed at a hearing tomorrow, so Loughran will lead us on our side of the bench tomorrow, the Judiciary Committee. And I'm going to be proud to be sitting there right alongside of her. When they bring that proposal tomorrow at the hearing tomorrow, it's to invite workers in and make them beholden to their employer. And once the work is done, they have to get out or be deported. It is based on the old model of guest workers that has not worked well for employers and especially not for workers. The workers are not people, families, or potential Americans, the way all immigration has happened in the U.S. for 2 centuries. Rather, they are looked at as being disposable. They won't look at them tomorrow as families, as people, as potential Americans, but as people who can be used and discarded. Well, we have a different vision here this morning that honors farm workers and honors American agriculture by allowing those who work in agriculture to stay and earn legal status if they qualify. Senator Feinstein introduced the bill in the Senate, and today I will announce I have 46 co-sponsors for the Agricultural Workers Program 2690 in the House of Representatives. Look, when immigrants are under attack, we have to find a way to offer them safety and security and legality, not just for them and their families, not just for them, but also for their families. Although it is very important, but also for their co-workers, for the supply chain, for the American food industry, and to hold employers accountable to our laws. I'm going to ask now, pues dame decirle unas palabras en español para tomar posición. Mire, mañana va a haber una propuesta en el Comité de los Jurídicos para los trabajadores de la agricultura. Pero va a ser una propuesta que dice, ven, trabajen y lárguense. Aquí nunca hay un país para ustedes, sus hijos y su familia. Ven, trabaje y lárguense. No los queremos aquí de una manera permanente. Nuestra propuesta es distinta. Es una propuesta que realmente le da valor a su trabajo y le indica a esos trabajadores, si usted se quiere quedar aquí y ganar su legalidad trabajando la tierra, nosotros les damos la bienvenida. Porque sabemos que hoy nosotros estamos aquí bajo
because there were no papers available. We have provided 5,000 visas a year for people to come without college degrees. Obviously, we have 2 million farm workers, so really, we set this situation up. It's important that we allow people who are working so hard in the fields to put food on America's table, to legalize their status, and to become fully integrated into our American family. I hope that this first almost 50 sponsors will grow so that we can have the same kind of bipartisan support for this measure that we saw in the Senate 4 years ago. I want to thank all of the members here who played unique and important roles in bringing us to this place, as well as remembering that every farm organization in the United States and the United Farm Workers endorsed the principles in this bill a mere 4 years ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman Loughran. I now want to introduce someone who's been part of the Inspirational Dream Movement. She's a dreamer herself. They've been at the front lines of the immigration movement. Grace Martinez.
Good afternoon. Buenos dias. My name is Grace Martinez Rosas. I'm the Advocacy Director of United We Dream. I come from a long line of farm workers and farm women that spent their days in the fields wanting to bring forward corn and food to their families. And even though we came into this country 21 years ago, that tradition has continued in our community. This bill that these people are proposing and that have championed to move forward, it's not just about the mom and the dad. It's about the documented dreamer in Plant City, Florida, picking strawberries today. It's about Jose, who is concerned about what will happen to DACA, but when he heard about this bill, he got his lights lit up, thinking that there might be a solution. And so now there is a question for this country, and it's more than just a moral question. It's a kitchen table question. It's a question about what do you want in your kitchen table, not only the people around it, but the food on the table. This is a moment of choice for our community, and there's a moment of choice for the House of Representatives. We call on it to make the right one. En este momento, mi nombre es Grace Martínez Rosas, soy la directora de abogacía con United We Dream. Estoy aquí representando no solamente a mi familia, que son de generaciones de personas que trabajan en los campos, pero también los jóvenes indocumentados con DACA, que están en Plant City, Florida, trayendo la comida a nuestras mesas. Al muchacho José y Jesús que están ahí, me llamaron cuando vieron este bill diciendo, oh, algo a lo mejor va a pasar que también nos va a beneficiar a nosotros. Aunque DACA esté en peligro, a lo mejor hay esperanza. Y en este momento decimos muy claro que hay una decisión, no solamente moral, pero una decisión de qué nos vamos a poner en la boca en estos años que vienen. Y las personas que lo hacen son las personas inmigrantes y las personas que son parte de nuestras familias. Entonces, en este momento les decimos a los congresistas que hagan la decisión correcta y una decisión moral y una decisión de la boca. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Grecia. I now want to introduce Congresswoman Judy Chu, who, as I mentioned, introduced the first bill to make sure that farm workers have water and shade. This bill not only protected farm workers, but made sure that farmers who were doing the right thing by providing water and shade weren't undercut on such a basic level. Congresswoman Judy Chu.
Thank you. Well, it is 91 degrees out here. It is hot. But you know what? It is not as hot as the conditions that Mr. Asuncion Valdivia experienced. He was a farm worker from Mexico who picked grapes for 10 hours straight in 105 degrees heat. Not long after that, Mr. Valdivia died from a preventable heat stroke at the age of 53. What is tragic is that his story is not unique. But still, there are immigrants who come every day to line up to do that. Today will create opportunities for their children tomorrow.
To contribute not only to our communities, not only to our country, but to the culture of the United States of America. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Congressman Jim Costa, is a veteran of these fights. He's represented farmers and farm workers from the largest agricultural district in the United States and probably the world, Fresno, California. Congressman Jim Costa.
Thank you very much, Keith. Buenos dias, mis amigos. Luis, muchas gracias. This legislation is very, very important. And I want to thank Senator Feinstein for her efforts and my colleagues who are all here today as co-sponsors for what is a very important piece of legislation because it encompasses really the American dream. And what's the American dream? It's the dream of immigrants past and immigrants present. We know that we have a broken immigration system in this country. And in light of the President's hurtful rhetoric and executive actions, it's imperative to continue to fix this broken immigration system. This legislation, H.R. 2690, the Agricultural Worker Program, I believe is a good first step forward. I would like to see it go further, but we must consider beyond the next 5 years, and we all are. But in the meantime, the challenges that we face in farm labor recruitment and retention is too often overlooked in the immigration debate. As was noted by Guy, I represent the largest agricultural region in the country, therefore the world. And as many of you know, we've had a devastating drought where we've had hundreds and thousands of acres go fallow. Now this year, in the last 6 months, we've been blessed with an abundance of rain and snow in the mountains. For that, we're thankful for. But many of my farmers, the rancheros, have said, you know, Jim, We cannot plant even though we have the water in many instances because we're not sure we have the people to tend to those fields. And that is sad because there are people who want to do the work, and Americans enjoy, I know, having the most productive, nutritious, highest quality food and fiber anywhere in the world on their dinner table every night at the most cost reasonable prices. Yet, much of that has been forgone because of the challenge of the labor shortages as a result of an older generation of farm workers retiring and newer generations moving to the cities. And that's typically what happens. Parents come, children are educated, and it has been a cycle that has continued for decades. In the San Joaquin Valley that I represent, we produce half the nation's fruits and vegetables, #1 in dairy production. 80% of the world's almonds, pistachios, walnuts, the list goes on and on and on. Wine grapes, table grapes. But I can tell you that that food that we produce in America, that food we produce in California by the campesinos is a national security issue. We tend to take it for granted. We think we go to the grocery store, gee, what's the problem? There's a lot of food in the grocery store. That food is in the grocery store because the campesinos, the rancheros, work hard together to make that a reality.
Hey guys, come on, everyone's
And
waiting.
when we talk about reality, it's often important to note, I tell my colleagues, that 70% of the agricultural workforce in California is undocumented. Think about that. 70% of the workforce in California in agriculture is undocumented. And let me tell you something. In recent 18 months, I've never seen it, and I've lived in the Valley all my life, with the fear that exists among these wonderful people of deportation. I've never seen it like this. They call my office. They see me out in the communities. They ask Jim, what is going to happen to the DACA and DAPA program? These campesinos, these immigrants, are some of the hardest working people and humble and honest that you'll ever meet in your life. They are salt of the earth. Therefore, we must act swiftly, and that's why this legislation is important. We must pursue bipartisan comprehensive immigration reform to fix this broken system. President Bush and President Obama proposed this comprehensive legislation, and I supported both of those efforts. I challenge President Trump to do the same and not to lead from behind. He has already done much harm, in my view, to play to some of the worst fears in our society. This is America. This is the land of the American dream, of immigrants past and present. We can do better, and we should, and this legislation is a step forward. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias, señor amigo.
Thank you, Congressman Costa. Few members of Congress has worked more with Republicans over the years. There's no issue that's more important for our food supply and our national security, as Congressman Costa mentioned in this bill. This next member of Congressman, Salud Carvajal, is also new, but as a county supervisor, he fought to end 78 years of race-based discrimination against farm workers when farm workers are excluded from overtime pay. We ended that exclusion in California last year. We have the other 49 states. We're so glad that Congressman Carvajal is here to join the fight for the Agricultural Worker Program Act. He represents the Central Coast, the South Central Coast, Santa Maria area of California. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gabe. First, let me start by thanking what I consider a champion on this issue, and that's Representative Gutiérrez. He has been on this issue when it wasn't popular. Now it's a little bit more popular. But I want to thank him, and I want to thank Senator Feinstein for their leadership with this very important legislation. Gabe, I'm not going to take you up today on your hour challenge. Let me tell you why. I immigrated to this country when I was 5 years old with my family. My father, my sisters, and I worked in the fields many a day. My summers, I picked strawberries, tomatoes, cucumbers, worked on the onion fields, onion packing sheds. I know what it's like. My family and I had the opportunity to come to this country when the immigration system worked. Many of our farm workers today that have come to this country have come despite a broken immigration system. And they work day in and day out to provide food on our tables, to work in harrowing conditions. This is a piece of cake standing under here for half an hour. It's nothing like working in the fields. Stand here 8 hours and just maybe you'll get a small glimpse of what that's like. What we don't do is appreciate our farm workers, people who put food on the table, people who break their back so that we could have the watermelon, fresh lettuce, great salads. We don't think about what's entailed. We don't think about their security. We don't think about their safety. And it's about high time we think about that. But more importantly, the best sign of appreciation that our country can do is to move this legislation forward here in Congress. Bipartisan legislation. Legislation that's modeled after the 2013 bipartisan legislation that came forward. That didn't move forward. That's what we can do. In my district, when I have meetings and I go out throughout the district, I meet with farm workers and I meet with farmers, both who raise concerns about the need to make sure that individuals are able to come out of the shadows and work comfortably in these important fields, and yet also help the farmers who alone are going through major challenges with labor shortages. In my district alone, this year, we had a $13 million loss because of a shortage in labor. That's just my district. I think there's many other agriculture areas that are going through the same challenges. This doesn't have to be partisan. This should be bipartisan. And I'm hopeful that my colleagues in Congress agree that it's high time we move this legislation forward to show our respect and appreciation of those who toil and labor day in and day out to put food on our tables. Para mí es un placer estar aquí. Quiero darle las gracias al representante Gutiérrez, a la senadora Feinstein, por su liderazgo en este tema, especialmente al representante Gutiérrez, que se ha comprometido y involucrado en este tema cuando no era popular. Ahora es más popular, pero él ha demostrado mucho liderazgo. En mi distrito he oído de los trabajadores del campo y de los que son dueños de los campos. Y todos quieren que muevamos para adelante esta legislación que reconoce el labor de nuestros trabajadores del campo y al mismo tiempo da los trabajadores que se necesitan para esta industria. Es muy importante que hagamos esto. Le dije al señor Give que no voy a tomar su ejercicio de levantar esta sandía por una hora, porque yo vine a este país con mi familia. Nosotros trabajamos en el field, mis hermanos, mis hermanas. Yo sé qué trabajo es trabajar en el field y es muy importante que en una manera con las dos cámaras muevamos adelante esta legislación para demostrar nuestro reconocimiento y apreciación de los trabajadores que hacen tanto para nuestra comunidad y nuestro país. Muchas gracias.
So now we can answer any questions. Podemos contestar preguntas en español, or we can answer questions in English for anyone that has. And again, thank you, Congressman Costa, who has to run some votes, Congressman Pineda, Congressman Carvajal, and Congressman Gutiérrez, who has been to Salinas and Fresno and Bakersfield and Oregon and Florida, let alone his district in Chicago. Any questions?
So we're going to step over there to the
Okay, vamos a hacer las preguntas en la sombra para los que quieren.